Hey guys, and welcome back to
Ultimate Beamer Experience.
And today I'm going to show you how to install a catch can on an N52 for cheap. I'll start off by saying that this is not a power modification, it's a maintenance modification. And what do I mean by that? Basically, a catch can, the purpose of it is to take your crankcase vapors and separate all the oil and other nasty stuff before going back to your intake. The crankcase fumes enter the catch can, the oil and other vapors fall into the can, and the air continues. This in turn keeps your intake manifold and your combustion chamber much cleaner, which is a huge problem for those shitty N54 engines. But why might you want one on an N52? Although it is not nearly as much of an issue, sometimes you open up your intake manifold and see a little bit of oil. The first reason might be to prevent getting oil on your disvalves if you're a 3-stage manifold, which in turn might prolong their lifespan. The next reason applies to the early model N52s with the magnesium valve cover, which utilizes that big piece of shit CCV oil separator thing underneath the intake manifold. Installing a catch can would allow you to delete that whole thing completely and just simplify the whole thing. If you do have one of these early model N52s with the magnesium valve cover, you'll have to find a way to either plug off the oil drain tube on the oil pan or unscrew that drain tube and replace it with the OEM screw which plugs it off. But whatever your reason might be, I'm installing it because I've been using velocity stacks without anything plugged into the valve cover at all. So all the harmful crankcase fumes have just been blowing around my engine bay and finding a way into the cabin and eventually my lungs into my intake system and shortening my lifespan with every drive that I take. But even worse than that, those crankcase fumes are just condensating and then dripping down the backside of my engine and making a huge oily mess of my transmission. And then that oil finds its way into local water supplies and then harms wildlife and poison children. You know, you've probably seen the Dawn dish soap commercials. Leaking BMWs are the root cause of ducts getting covered in oil. So what I'm gonna do is install a catch can to collect that oil and save the environment. And then I'm gonna do what's called venting to atmosphere, where I basically just run a hose out of the catch can to redirect all those fumes away from the cabin but into the atmosphere, where they will enter the ozone layer and then return back to earth in the form of acid rain. But at least it doesn't rain onto me. But this might not be legal in your state. It's probably not legal in my state. So obviously if you're gonna vent to atmosphere for whatever reason like me, do so at your own risk. So in this video I'm gonna show you how to install it for all the common intake manifolds. I decided to buy this very cheap Amazon catch can, which is kind of a copy of the BMS N54 catch can but for a fraction of the price. The kit that I bought comes with a couple of PCV hoses as well as some hose clamps. But depending on your setup, you might need more PCV hose, so you might want to buy it separate, but they do sell the catch can with and without the hoses. I'll leave links to all the parts in the description below. But you're going to need the catch can, 3/4 inch PCV hose. It's got to be PCV hose that's rated for fuel. Otherwise, if you use heater hose, it will leak. And then you're going to need some hose clamps. And then ideally, you're going to want your stock PCV hose just for the quick connects. So now let's install it on the car. Just like the N54 manifold and what I did with that, I'm going to be cutting off the quick connect from a stock PCV hose, so that way I can have a nice seal and a quick connect for my new catch can setup. So it should just slip in over this fitting perfectly. And now I have a perfect quick connect. So I'll just tighten this down. So pretty much this hose will go into this end of the oil catch can, the side with the baffles. And then this side will have another tube where I can just route towards the bottom of the car to redirect the fumes away from the HVAC system and my cabin. And it should just slip on relatively easy. And then this side can be tightened down as well. So just a minor detail, I moved the hose clamp to the bottom, so it just kind of hides it. I flipped the orientation on this one as well, just so that same thing, it's kind of out of the way of anything. So with the stock manifold or the 3-stage, you'd want it to return back. What you could do is just have this plugged in its stock location and then cut it right here, and you can attach your hose right there. So for the sake of demonstration, what I did was I chopped the stock PCV hose right at the T and then attach this candy cane shaped hose in this orientation. So then what you would do, you would plug it in normally like so, and then just feed the PCV hose up between cylinder number 5 and 6 and then up to your catch can, and you should have enough length to make that work. For the N54 manifold, the PCV heater lands right about dead center there. So what I would do is just use one of the 45-degree angle quick connect, and hopefully you'd still have enough length to reach over to the catch can. The only thing to keep in mind is that once these get old, they get very brittle. They basically turn to eggshells. So if you need a new one, I will put the link in the description. Alright, so now for the installation, extremely simple, especially for me since I don't have this screwed down. This is gonna mount to this crossbar, I don't know what you want to call it. Before I do that, I'm just gonna plug it in. And I don't know if you can see around back. Actually, you know what, I can get this out of the way. Right back there is the PCV bung that I've had just open ever since the V-Stacks. And very simply, just plug it in. There, and it clicked in. And then it looks like this is gonna live about here. Add the little top piece. Gonna tighten it down with this Allen key. Kinda looks like I'm flipping the bird. And hopefully I won't drop these little screws. This bracket fits in there perfect, and there's multiple holes on it so that you can get various orientations. Let's get that other one on. Great. Luckily that wasn't gone forever. And that is on there nice and tight.
1 week into the future.
For my own curiosity and to make sure I'm giving you guys accurate information, I took off the velocity stacks and I just very loosely threw on the stock manifold, which is the same dimensions as the 3-stage manifold, just to test if this PCV setup will work with the hoses that they include. If you put the kink side to the return on the intake manifold and then you have it snake up through cylinders 5 and 6, it comes up without kinking the hose in any way that would restrict airflow. So this seems to work perfectly without modifying the hose at all.
Back to the past.
Now let's go under the car and see if I can fasten that anywhere. You don't even need to jack up the car to see that that is gonna be an issue. I've got some handy dandy zip ties, right? Some cutters and a flashlight, and now we're gonna go under and see where we can secure this. So here we are at the transmission area, and you see all this oil here? This is 100% because I've just been venting without collecting. I might be able to thread it through this thing and then attach it to this hanger thingy. There we go. I think it conveniently has a hole which is entirely intended for threading zip ties. Now I only want it tied to the hanger, not to any of those other lines. Where we are currently should be below the driver's seat. I should not smell anything anymore, but if it's still bad, I can always extend it.
A few thousand miles later.
All right, so occasionally you're gonna wanna drain this catch can. You obviously don't want it to overflow. It won't really serve its purpose anymore. But you know, just check it occasionally. Maybe when you do your oil changes. I'll demonstrate how to drain it right now. Alright, so once you unscrew it, let's take a look. Oh, ooh, it's got a very, I don't know if you can see from back there, it's got a real dark color and consistency. It doesn't even really look like oil. That is not good. You gotta make sure it doesn't overflow, so maybe check it and drain it maybe every time you do your oil, or maybe a little less. Just every once in a while, open it up, drain it, reinstall it, and you should be good for another few thousand miles or so at least. So in conclusion, the oil catch can had solved all my problems. On a test drive with the HVAC on high, I didn't notice any crankcase fumes. So the vent hose seems to be far enough back, and the tailwind is definitely blowing it far away from the HVAC inlet. So I no longer have to drive with all the windows down if I don't want to. And the engine is no longer blowing oil residue all over the engine bay. So once again, all the parts that you might need are going to be in the description, and subscribe for more N52 stuff.